Good evening. Welcome to the August 8th Ahrb meeting. We are going to begin with an applicant has to be out of here quickly. We're going to review 112 Walgrove Avenue, which is 5th on the agenda, but it's a brief application. Would you like to come up?
Sure.
Just introduce yourself, use the mic.
Michael Fry from 112 Walgrove. I'm the owner of the property. My architect is supposed to be Atilda Ave. I don't know where he's at. In any case, this project is essentially removing the deck which is non-conforming and replacing it with a landing and stairs to the second floor exit for fire egress purposes. Here to maintain that exit for the building.
So, and I understand that there was an approved deck here that was non-conforming or on the neighbor's property or something like that, and
That's a total mystery.
This-
The board years ago approved that deck, which is not even entirely, there are numerous issues. It obviously encroaches into the side yard setback.
yeah, got it. So, is there a variance required here, Ed, for
No.
this?
No, it's complies as a stoop and egress.
Okay.
This is work that we have to do to accomplish the sale of our house.
I understand. I would just ask one thing. It's not clear that the deck will match, or this new stair and landing will match whatever trim is on the rest of the house. The house is currently what? It's a wood house, it's
That's
a stone house, it's a,
cedar shingle.
uh-huh.
They're gray. The current deck is brown.
And is there trim work on the house? The
White.
window casings, it's painted white?
You should have photos. Put them on a flash drive.
No, we
see
don't, we
that.
didn't get those.
You guys have any comments? It's okay if they're not required. I wouldn't
I
want to
have
have this painting the deck.
shots right here from when we bought the house.
Painted too much.
So look at those.
Does it match existing to replace existing color?
Yeah. it's fine.
Your,
Yeah, do you wanna have it match the trim work? No, it's probably better as it is. Just, yeah.
If you're concerned about the color, we'll have the architect specify something.
Yeah, I just in looking at the photographs, it makes more sense for it to remain a wood color. However, this pressure treated wood ages poorly, even though it can stay outside. So we ask that you use an opaque stain in the teak color or the walnut color or one of the colors that it comes in that matches the brown. I think this looks good with the rest of the house.
Now treated with some kind of copper solution, so it has to be stained so it's put up.
You stain it, otherwise it turns this really ugly, sort
Something happens to
of
it.
dark gray.
Deteriorates.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve this as submitted with the stipulation that the pressure treated posts and joist, deck, and railing baluster be treated with an opaque stain in the medium brown natural wood tones. Have a second?
Second.
Dale seconds. Unanimous. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. We'll now resume with the agenda, item number 1, 12 Livingston Avenue.
on our history being here and based on the board's comments, we decided to take it somewhere and provide a slightly reduced second floor plan. We kind of manipulated it a little bit to maximize the walk-in closet space in the master bedroom. And we indented, as per the board's request, 1 foot off the rear to give it more of a dome appeal. Look, as you can see in this elevation. And then we amended the front stoop, front porch, as per the board's request. Would you like me to run through the project again? I can. You want me? So, as to meet, to try to meet the sky exposure plane, we came up with this form of massing just to meet that sky exposure plane. And so, with the massing, the way it is, we have an existing, based on existing first floor, which basically stays the same. And then we introduce a stair in the middle of the house, and that stair leads to the second floor, where we decided to move the kitchen up to maximize the views of the river. We have a little sitting area, and then we have the master bedroom to the rear with a power in the front. So we have the kitchen and the living room, kitchen on the second floor, and the living room on the first floor to maximize the views of the river and the living spaces. And then the sleeping quarters are at the rear. So to meet the sky exposure plane, we had to cantilever to the left to set the massing in the sky exposure plane, and cantilever out the front slightly, 2 feet. Both cantilevers are 2 feet. And to create a front porch, we're introducing a shed roof, standing seam metal shed roof, and we are expanding the porch to accommodate the cantilever on the left-hand side. So we expanded the porch on the left and the right to give it more of a symmetrical, centered approach to the existing front door. We love the existing front door. Everything is existing on the first floor. Existing front door, existing windows and garage door, and then everything proposed on the second floor.
Just to clarify, the second floor balconies are cable railings?
The second floor balcony,
Yeah.
the railing.
Railings are railings are cable railings,
Well, no, one is wrought iron railing.
and the horizontals?
Wrought iron horizontal railings, yeah. Not cable.
Okay. And the doors exist, the existing doors?
On the first floor?
Yes.
Yes, it's the existing front
So
door.
existing, and the windows upstairs are, do you have a window schedule? What kind of windows?
Yeah,
Much.
Anderson, this window schedule on the A100,
Yeah,
the Anderson 400 series,
got it.
double hung.
Okay.
While the changes are relatively minor, I think they address some of the concerns we had. I think your plan is working for you in a smarter way. I think that helps compositionally with the front of the house, with the door setback. I think we could use a little more detail on the railing. But, you know, this has always been a tricky project in that we want people to be able to build a two-story house on their properties, and when you have a tight one or you've got an odd condition, this sky exposure plane really leaves you at a disadvantage in many respects. My sense here is that you've explored your possibilities for what's feasible for a house for family, and you've arrived at a point which I think is a reasonable compromise between what we need to see before we can feel comfortable that it's the right approach, and what you can do as an architect, and what owners can do as to build a house that they want to live in. So I think we've come to a good place in that respect. I do think a couple little, I think the railing, I don't know if the garage door is just a blank. I'm assuming you're keeping the existing door. There's a, in a way, the existing skin on the building, which is this horizontal, vertical, sort of thin reveal on the wood, has a certain charm in my mind. I don't know what's happening here. It looks like you're replacing the whole skin of the building with what exactly? Hardy. Okay. So this window is remaining, the front facade window, the garage door is to remain?
Yes.
And do you think is that realistic, given that you're really stripping the whole house down? Because if not, then we should talk about all those things, right? What is a garage door, if you're gonna end up taking it off and replacing it? What is that window if in fact it's not gonna survive it? Okay.
Just replacing the siding.
So for me, I agree with Michael. What he said it's a good compromise. We are encroaching just a fraction what we was, so it's a good compromise. It's not the perfect scheme, but it's workable, and I agree that the Rhode Island needs detailing, but we are talking about details now, so it's.
I think I have a picture of the one. Would you like
Yeah,
to see a picture?
oh please.
So the more information you have, the better, yeah.
This picture is not a color, but this
Yep.
picture has the wrought
I
iron
got it.
Okay.
horizontal,
Nice, yeah, it's good.
and it's very similar to the way I drew it, so that we would go with that.
Okay.
Do you have a whole presentation that you don't want to show us? What is all this? We'd love, let's go through it. If this is part of the,
It's just kind of inspiration,
that's fine, that helps.
and then, hardy plank.
Okay, can you go back? Because it helps to have a material board, but in absence of that, we'd be happy to look at photographs of the materials.
Okay.
So if you have all of that now, let's look at it while we're here and
Yeah.
give us some comment.
So, these columns,
Could you do us a favor, can you make this the full size?
orange sub brick. So this is basically the look that we.
And so the base of the landing, this whole piece that I'm seeing here is
Yes.
made of what material?
That's just a concrete material.
So it's
not- it's a
cast in
painted-
place
painted
concrete, painted comfortable.
With a bluestone finish. And I don't know if I don't know if the board is, like this area here, that's just space in between the columns, the column and the first floor. I don't know if the board would entertain filling that in, just like.
I think it's better to have the overhang than the wing wall. I know you talked about a scheme, or maybe you drew that one way
Right.
much earlier on. I prefer it to just cantilever out
You
than
prefer it to be
have the false wall in a way.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of
I would agree with that.
Can I?
Let it be what it is.
All right. No, I won't. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
If you've got a great argument and you want it in there, we're willing,
I
we'll
can
entertain it.
show you the massing study, but it's probably not worth the trouble.
Okay.
To me, I think it would square it off, but if you don't agree, it's not worth the trouble.
No,
I
there's no.
risk
Yeah.
repeating myself, but you guys may have another.
I'm fine the way it is.
I think the layout works pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, we're actually happier,
Exactly.
yeah.
You know, and it's at least, you know, has more of a sense of constraint now than it did before.
The rear elevation is fine. Okay.
Color,
Just cool.
It's on the gray that is on the slide,
Silver.
this color,
the light gray.
like,
And then the slide before has some gray with white trim example.
It's actually very contextual. Just definitely this kind of postmark.
I'd like to change the material on that house that is shown, which is what this house is.
Okay, any other comments?
No, the front door will be dark, like you're showing in the precedent images. The idea is that it'll be dark stained, and it'll also be a white trim on a gray, or is it gonna be a white door to match the white garage door? Thought through that or not yet?
yeah. Well, right now, the existing door is this color, you can see it in the picture. So, which is not a dark stain, but we're not opposed to painting it or staining it dark.
We're open to suggestions.
Yeah.
No, it's a paint, it's not
Yeah.
a paint, it's painted paint.
I don't wanna tell people how to paint their doors.
Right.
You should paint whatever color
I
you
just wonder
want.
how that related.
Make
to
it
the-
harmonious with the house and everyone will be very. No other comments? No? Okay, I make a motion, we approve this application as submitted. We have some notes pertaining to materials that we'd like added to the final set. Do I have a second? Yeah, your seconds. Gail? It is unanimous. Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
the first applause I've heard here in a very long time. Particularly from the right side of the room. 71 Mohican Park Avenue, please.
Good luck.
No one here from 71?
It was the young couple, right?
Pardon?
It was a young couple, I think.
Okay, we'll
I didn't get anything new from them this time either.
no, that happened last week too. Oh, all right, well, I'll make a motion, we
Continue.
continue to the next hearing. No second, Dale seconds,
Cool.
it's unanimous. 5 Atilda Avenue.
You have the old school easel.
I don't know what happened to them. No, I have right over there.
You have the old school chair. You have the old school chair.
My name is Lyle Kane, I'm the owner and architect of the project. It's on 5 Atilda Avenue, right near Hastings, on the west side of Broadway. This is the existing house. It's the front here. Is there a little double there? This is the side, this is where the proposed addition is going, side of the house, front of the house again, back of the house, and the addition is sort of on that corner, the back and the side of the house. And this is the corner, this actually shows the corner where that volume is going to sit, right there, adjacent to that volume. And this is the context of the large brick house, well, tall, it's a large brick house. On one side of the property, on Atilda Avenue, number 9. There's the house in the back, here's the cat corner in the back, that's a large volume. There's a low house on the other side, that's the dentist office, over here. The dentist office is part of that house, number 5 Broadway. And it's also right adjacent to the Hastings House Apartments. Yeah, the back view here, the existing deck. Let's see. So this is the site plan, this is the area of the house here, small proposed addition in the front, with a little alteration to the entry.
Niall, in your zoning chart, proposed rear setback, you put 22.3, and I believe it's actually a lot more than that.
Oh, real estate, sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's 26.7.
You know, actually, yeah, the previous idea of doing it a little differently and getting zoning variance, we changed it, so it's 26.7. So yeah, so this is the 2.5-story addition here, this L shape, and then the portion of addition on top of the second floor. And the small addition to the front. And it's all within the setback requirements. Going for zoning variance, we're not making much sense.
Let me finish up. You have 29, and you've chosen to go with the sliding scale. But when you do that, you need to do the contextual calculation, because in FOS, it's the lesser of the two. So you need to measure the neighbors.
Right. But I can, do I have to do that for this, or if it's under the allowable? I mean, I'm not choosing or whatever necessarily, unless I,
Prescriptively is 28
to the,
to the width.
where's that section? It's 35 to the ridge.
No, in the
Oh, yeah, you do
B6, in the sliding scale, it's 35, but when you
Oh,
do
but
the
we
sliding
do
scale,
that,
you
then I
have to pick
show
one or the
context.
other.
No, I didn't
The
understand that,
contextual,
so I'll have to do that, right, okay. So, going back to the front,
I'm sure you know.
yeah, I just didn't understand that distinction, sometimes, but, so anyways, the front elevation, small change to the front entry, we're just extending this roof plane down, hopping forward the entrance. This is the addition to the back. You see, it's above this existing plane, so it's picked up on that same angle, the existing roof, brought it up here. And this is the elevation looking north, the windows at the second, the half story, deck out here, and this is the portion that's added on here. The addition is going to be flat in the same fashion, cedar siding, shiplap siding. Windows are going to be similar. They're LePage wood windows with the Douglas fir finish. This roof, it's a structural roof, which will be this material exposed, and it'll sort of go out from inside to the exterior, the same finish, which you'll see through the windows.
What is that? That's just a laminate.
It's a
Blue
laminate
laminate.
roof, it's a roof deck material, roof structure material.
And it's integral insulation? What is that middle piece? It's
No,
another piece of wood?
this
I
is
can't
just
see
the
it's over.
insulation. You put rigid, you actually put a drainage type insulation above it with grooves and then another piece
Oh,
of.
so that's
insulation
another block
above
of
that.
wood in between.
So it's another, 6 inches of rigid insulation on top. And then on top of that, it's going to be a standing seam copper roof.
And it's assembled on site, or it's a
Assembled on
panel?
site.
It's like a
It's a
structural infill
It
panel?
sticks like, pieces like that.
So you're not gonna see this?
Oh, you see it?
So it
I
goes
thought you said it
between,
was clad in copper.
Well, the roof is clad in copper, the underside you'll see.
so it goes between the
Inside
rafters?
ceiling.
It goes between the rafters, that's what it is.
Goes between the beams,
Beams.
it spans between the beams,
Beams.
it's a structural roof.
Yeah.
It's the same as, remember the House Colonial in South Lawn I did a number of years ago, the same kind of thing. In the same corner there. And this is the rear elevation here, a little bit of a balcony up here, gable railing, again, the same siding to match existing windows, and this is exposed steel, tapered steel beam with some steel connections of this fir posts. Corner glazed windows at the corner, and plan is So the addition is to contain the dining area, expand the existing kitchen. This is all existing, which will remain. Bathroom, existing bathroom is going to remain or be renovated. And then upstairs, we'll have to expand the master bedroom. Here, the bathroom, and then in the attic, the half-story space will be a sort of a studio space. Really meant to take advantage of it. Every time when we bought the house, 10, 12 years ago, no, 15, I'm saying, 15, 16 years ago, when I get up on the roof to take the leaves off, I always thought, the view is so great from up here. God, if someday do an addition. So this has been in my flat file for about 12 years.
Time to build it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Time
it's
to
a,
build it.
How'd you build it?
As long as it complies with the height, I have no issues.
Yeah, it seems, just to go through, it's an interesting addition. We, feel strongly about it, adding real value visually to the neighborhood. But I guess there is some technical hurdle, which doesn't really seem like a hurdle. I think it's just something shown in the drawing.
I can do that, yeah,
Yeah,
There are-
as long as
It's only
it's,
a foot, I'm sure it's gonna get that.
Yeah, because your next door neighbor is pretty tall, so
And
if you do the.
it's eclectic neighborhood, because there's two very low houses too
Yeah.
on the other hand, so. There's high houses and there's some mixed.
This board could choose to throw out an anomaly in the calculation.
There's possibly.
I think, I've been through that neighborhood recently, when we got this a couple weeks ago, and there's clearly the house that's on Broadway with the office is,
It's a one-story.
very different. So I think we would look at the two-story houses in context with yours as a legitimate way to assess its relative scale in the neighborhood. So, so what, do we wanna just come back to?
I'm fine coming back the 22nd with the calculations, because I thought maybe you were off the 22nd.
I might be,
Or you?
I might. No, I think I'm.
We have a full board these days. Today, we're short one member, but I think we'll make it through.
I'm here.
I'm here also, Dale. Okay,
Okay, so let's come back with that extra
yeah,
calculation.
let's do that.
But yeah.
But I don't think we'll have anything else to discuss there. Motion to continue to the next hearing. Dale seconds. It's unanimous. Thanks. Oh, it's right here.
Can I see that?
Sure.
As long as,
It's gotta be pretty strong,
Yeah.
so there's 4
100 Main Street.
Here a couple of weeks ago, the board had a number of questions and concerns, and we've raised some points specifically to address those. This is, we're now up to L, so it is no longer being misread as one and 2 1. It's now 1L and 2L. Those were I's before, so L will be easy. We don't need to go through that. This was the rendering that we had last time, which was revised, to show a couple of things that we changed. We have turned the corner, with the brick coming back under the building, we've extended the roof coming across, tying it together. We've got the extension always, so that this is now one building, one continuous habitable space from one side to the other. This is the rendering that we had last time, which shows, you can just barely, I've got it in front of those drawings, but one of the concerns here was that when you stood on the aqueduct, you'd be able to see down and see the cars. I think we've got some other diagrams and drawings that will show that it's not a concern. But what we've done is we've added if you will, it's a board and batten without the batten. So it's a board with space, so you still get some feeling of light and view through it, but the space is relatively small. You're not looking through really seeing cars. We've done the same thing for the Risolay over that wall that we had before, so we'll tie those together. So that should solve part of that problem, the concern that it was floating. I think most specifically is the front turning the corner and the way that the foundation now is complete. We still have an opening in the front. We could put a garage door on it, but I think that would be, I don't think that would be better, but that's something you guys can tell me. This is the existing photo of the building in wintertime. This is what we're currently proposing. This is standing on the board and batten, which is also on this piece. It comes across, and we removed some of the bricks that we had before. It was coming across that, and we just had to, we put it to the panels, which also should help in case there's ever a time when people want to bring heavy equipment in to do any work on that wall. The access wall needs to be demounted and give better access. Over here, it's hard to see it here, but I think you've got your drawings. This is the existing wall that's against the aqueduct. This shows that panel coming down relatively a foot and a half below the top of the wall. So they overlap, but if you were standing in the garage, you'd still be able to see the wall. And it doesn't interfere with maintenance or other concerns that the aqueduct could possibly have. We changed the framing because we brought this wall back in, so we're able to kind of have beams that come across. That's simple framing that we will to eliminate figures we had it before, so that now it's more open underneath, which I think will be better. Show here this apartment now connects to the existing building, so that should eliminate that concern. We no longer talking about building out of compliance.
So what is that space?
The space is part of the apartment. This is the kitchen. This is like a sitting area, or you can make this their sitting area, this their dining, this their dining, and that their sitting. So it gives us more space in that apartment. Here's the plan view from above. This is Mr. Kelly's building on this side, showing the breakdown of the forms. Here's this building, the existing, the connection, the two-story portion of it, and the one-story portion that's the reconstruction of the barn. This was what we had in 2015 in November when the resolution was to support having the fourth story. This is how it is now with the fourth story removed and those changes made. Same thing with this elevation, reducing it down. Just go down. And if your thing freezes up, is there a trick? No.
It is straight.
I don't want to your
Someone, this is your tax style.
This is the previous, and this is, as we have it now, showing, we've done these in white right now to make them very visible. One thing I probably should let off with, just to make sure everybody's aware, we're not here for an architectural review board approval. We are here for recommendation to the board of trustees for site plan approval. After we get site plan approval, the idea is we'd be able to come back and talk about finalized materials, colors, things like that. Although I agree it's important to have the components all together in this one, because this one is kind of all about the details. I'm assuming that what we would do with this is probably do a very dark gray, so that it wouldn't call attention to it and still give you that enclosure. I think we went over these things last time, unless you've got questions about them. I don't think that's really an issue. Here's just looking at the building, looking back up. This is that rendered kind of the same view, looking up, seeing the connections and the piece of change. Mr. Tilly's across the street, showing similar use of variegated forms, which kind of, that was an example that was given to us last year. In June and July, when we were talking about how to approach this, and we were showing a singular building combined, basically expanding the front building back, and the perception was we should be trying to duplicate the barn and break the massing down. So that was the example that was given, and that is what we're trying to do. These aren't really good to talk about those. This is just showing a comparison. We showed that last time. This was that July memo. After the planning board, the architecture review board had their joint meeting, which focused this in on 3 specific concerns. One was the parking. We have 5 parking spaces, 5 apartments. We're compliant with what the requirement is. We have massing at the site for the barn that is very similar. I think that has been agreed. Those that your position on. state was aware of this. This was the report that we submitted to the state. It was dated September 17th. It was actually sent to the state on the 20th of September. We did get a response back, a written response, which was from Linda Cooper in January. And then we resubmitted this on the 20th, which included that letter, and we've copied that and sent that to the state as well, as giving it to the village. At this point, we have gotten no response or letter of concern, though we've asked if there are any concerns. We have offered, as the board I think knows, that we are willing to give them an easement for restoration maintenance of their wall, working from this property. And we have made a design which does not impart any kind of surcharging or any other impacts. We don't block any of their drainage lines or any of those kinds of concerns. That's it. Do you have any questions?
I think we have some neighbors here. We're gonna let some neighbors speak. We're gonna, sort of summarize our thoughts, have a discussion so that we have some.
Okay, so you would like them to speak first? And then
Yeah.
we- Okay.
Let's do that. Anyone?
Steve Tilley, 32 Oak Street. And I'm here to encourage you. I mean, it's been a long kind of process, arduous process, but I'm here to encourage you to not settle at this point because of the length of the process and the kind of battle fatigue that sets in at this point. And that I would encourage you, I mean, I think that, I still think that there's the fundamental flaw, and I'm not going to go through the arguments that I've rehearsed in the message that I got, that I hope all of you got today, the revised message. But I still think that the premise of filling in this open space and other open spaces along the aqueduct is flawed, and that's what's led to the difficulty of trying to get from A to B, from the existing building to the barn or barn-like shape. Because really, the right project here from the get-go is the adaptive reuse of the historic structure so that that building in its authenticity survives for adaptive reuse in the same way that my barn survives. That collection of buildings happened, wasn't intentional. This is an intentional set of activities that are in your control. And you have every right and every ability under the legislation in our code and under New York State Ahrb and aesthetic regulation law to really define what you want to see happen on this property. And right now, it's a set of architectural elements that have sort of tumbled down in between a barn shape, a very sort of pristine, simple, not grand building that sits on Main Street. And it's still a jumble. There's still a huge agenda that has to happen in order to support it, in order to have all the associated facilities, the associated structure, the required clearances, the equipment, the trash removal, the impacts on the existing building are obviously not positive. Look at the existing building, there's two nice apartments that they removed an offensive one-story addition years ago, but now it's in pretty good shape. Those apartments will be diminished by whatever happens back, so you have to take that into consideration. In your recommendation to the Board of Trustees of the site plan approval, you would obviously like to stay within your areas of concern, but I would argue that your areas of concern and responsibility move from architecture to planning. And they have to do with the overall result on this property of smashing so much stuff in that open space. The other thing that's happened as this design process has moved along is that the preservation aspect of what's happening in Dobbs Ferry, the H in the Ahrb, has actually accelerated tremendously, so that the Board of Trustees set up a Historic District Commission. That commission generated us a language that is formulated now in legal language underlying the establishment of historic districts. And the chairman of that committee and a trustee are meeting this Friday with the village attorney for a final review of that language. The other thing is that there are the constituent parts of various historic districts that are in formation. Actually, the primary historic district that was suggested by the LWRP and the vision plan was the downtown district. And because it really is the place where many of the, quote, landmarks, but also the historic fabric survive in the village. And there's been a lot of changes up on the hill, a lot of infill, but the sort of durable parts of the village that sort of create a recognizable landscape for us all downtown. And the other thing that's happened is that preservation in general has moved from celebrating the houses of dead white men to thinking much more broadly about what it is, what are the messages from the past, and what are the things we want to listen to and be able to recall and have continue in our environment. And it has much more to do with vernacular buildings, with on historic sites with slave quarters, with those places that were inhabited by servants and ordinary working people, on the sites that we work with. And the same thing is true of historic districts, that there's much more interest in and concern about that collection of surviving buildings that tell a different story, tell a story about the turning of the page, the scale at different times. For example, what was the village like when 75 Main Street, when the Oceanic building was a granary? It was really an agricultural village, and the existing barn at 100 Main Street, which is an authentic surviving historic structure from 1885, thereabouts. The carpenter's date on it is confirmed by the lumber sizing that I've done and the evaluation of the other materials in that building by comparison to other surviving barns. So there's really no doubt about that. So it's a contemporary of the sort of that era of Dobbs Ferry, when my barn was a barn, and there was a barn right across the aqueduct in the corner of the parking lot. So there was sort of this whole assemblage around the aqueduct. So the aqueduct, which is really our, if you think about it, the aqueduct is our high line. You've been out on the aqueduct recent weekends, and I've been doing the aqueduct for 30 years or so. It's unbelievable. We now have, it's multiplying. There's just a constant procession. If you try to ride your bike, there's just a constant procession of walkers, runners, kids, kids with in strollers, so that it's a very different experience. And thousands of people go through Dobbs Ferry on the aqueduct on a day like Sunday. Just hundreds of people making their way, and they're making their way slowly, so that what they're seeing sinks in. And to me, we have a collection, and what we've restored. A little carriage house that sits behind the house on Hatch Terrace. So that, and other interlarded buildings constitutes a historic district, and the Old Croton Aqueduct itself is a National Historic Landmark. That's the highest category of landmark in the country. That's, that puts it in, there are maybe 800 to 1,000 National Historic Landmarks in the Northeast region that is, people in Philadelphia look after. So it's not just the state that's looking at it, it's the National Park Service. So, I mean, we're not saying that this barn is Mount Vernon, quite the opposite. We're saying that preservation now looks at this as evidence, as something about our history, something about where we were or where other, the people who were here before us were, and that it has an importance. And right now we're close to establishing that connected set of landmarks. And so I would urge you to recommend to the Board of Trustees that that be an important consideration in looking at site plan review on this project. Because on the one hand, they're saying we are setting up this process to preserve landmarks and to create districts. And on the other hand, obviously, we have ongoing land use issues, as there always are. But it seems to me that that's in your role. You have, you don't have necessarily responsibility to spend huge amounts of time, kind of fighting battles about preservation. But on the other hand, age is in your mandate and responsibility to make recommendations, to have opinions, to make suggestions. And I would urge you to forward that recommendation to the Board of Trustees, that action be deferred until this district information can provide the connection of this barn and this site to the other sites along the aqueduct before the die is cast. The die will be cast, the barn is gone, can't bring it back. A facsimile is a facsimile, it doesn't have the authenticity. Even though the barn for adaptive reuse, like my barn, we kept all of the surviving elements. We put a dormer in it, we put a heating system in it, even though for it to become a vital active use building, it will require some loving attention. But on the other hand, that will still be there. One can say that there's a true authenticity about its shape, about its essential structure, which is sound, and it's a remaining it's a remaining piece of that fabric. So anyway, thanks for all the attention and work that you put in on everything, and some of the battles you've won, some of the battles you've lost. I'm with you, but I will certainly be supporting you all along the way.
Thank you.
This is on Chestnut Street. I support everything that Steve just said, and then some. He forgot to mention that at Meat House we have preserved the summer kitchen. I hope if you haven't had a chance to get there, you'll please get up and see what we've done. But one of the things about this project that troubles me is the efforts that the developer has made to circumvent the existing code, and he's using tricks to do it. At this point in time, the building on Main Street allows for 3 stories. The code on Main Street allows for 3 stories, and it allows for people to live there. The code going up behind it on Elm Street only allows for commercial use, not for people to live there. But by sticking all the buildings together, it gets then to use the code on Main Street, and that's how he gets to have the apartments there. And somehow that's just not quite right, and I just don't think you should allow that. You can say no to this. You do not
quality is a really important thing, and it's a very difficult thing to put a financial number on sometimes. But I always like to remind that when we think about Dobbs Ferry, as a commuter location, Yonkers is closer to Manhattan. It costs less, it takes less time, but people want to raise their children and their families in Dobbs Ferry for a whole variety of reasons. And they are to do with quality. And quality has value. It is a directly transferable concept. The quality of our buildings, of our downtown, the wonder of the aqueduct, the historic aspects of the village, they translate into dollars that people are willing to pay to live here, to the price of houses. I've long made a living as an appraiser, so I've spent a lot of time thinking about the concepts of value. And when we look at Dobbs Ferry, the value that exists in part is because of our historic heritage. It is the polyglot of buildings. It is the chaos of history that has developed over time through the village that leaves us with something that is special, that is non-standardized. It is the world that existed before standardized buildings and 14-inch intervals and that sort of thing. It is something that comes through time and has been handed down to us and is so easily lost. We've already lost Rudy's Beau Rivage. I think one of the most beautiful buildings in the river towns because of a whole variety of reasons. We have just lost having a quality building at 2 Ashford Avenue, despite the efforts of this board and others. We've lost that. We've lost that opportunity. What we have here is something that can be preserved. You just look across the street at what Steve Tilley has done. How many times when you've been walking through Dobbs Ferry have you stopped and looked at Steve Tilley's building and wondered about the performances that Sarah Bernhardt gave and the history that came with it? The barn at the back of this property, people worked in it. There were people sweated and did things, and it's part of the fabric of the village. To create a new structure there that is of the character, I think is the characterization, I think is one of the terms that was used in some of the letter from Mr. Steinschneider, that could be in suburban DC, out in Loudoun County, or in somewhere outside Atlanta. It steals from us, it steals from all of us. And I know it's an unfair burden that you guys have to carry, but you do. You are the soldiers for quality in this village. And I thank you for what you do, most sincerely. And I know it's a very difficult position. And people want to just say, this is just simply an economic issue. You know, let's maximize, let's do the basic developer thing of taking the smallest amount of land and squeezing onto it the largest amount of revenue producing buildings. And that's all that's going on here. And it is a path we've started down, and hopefully we're starting to halt that direction before it is too late. And here is a moment, I thank you so much for listening, here is a moment to say, this building is historic, it is part of our fabric, of our community, it adds value and quality, and we should keep it. Thank you.
Good evening. Sandra Merrill, 32 Walnut Street. I agree with all that's been said by my neighbors here. I live on Walnut Street on the edge of this district. It's very important to me. A couple of comments I want to make. Maybe this isn't here tonight, but I was forwarded an email that said that indeed she had spoken to Lyndon Cooper at the state and that they probably had received the communication but had not had a chance to, she wasn't sure exactly when, and had not had a chance to review it. architecture apart. In fact, I have, am obtaining some books for you from Jay Spikes, and we'll be giving one to each of you to keep that in mind, to help you keep that in mind. Steve mentioned the high line and the halo effect that's happening in that area. I would point out that in no way is ruining, will ruin that kind of effect if we ruin our old road and aqueduct and the effect of building back to that in each of these properties that is going to come, they're going to come before you. Having said all that, I want to go back a little bit to the building, the proposal that was given tonight. My understanding is there's a connection between those two buildings, is there not?
Pardon?
Is that-
Between the new proposal and the existing building on Main Street?
Yes.
Yes, there's a, previously we had seen a walkway. Tonight we have seen a bridge that is a living space.
So he's rationalized the bridge to circumvent the code. This is, all of this has nothing to do with the value of our village. It's two buildings on one lot. He's rationalized this. A sky bridge does not turn two buildings into one building, no matter how Patty describes it. If that shouldn't be precluded in our village code, maybe the builder and his agent should make that legal argument and get the code changed, rather than asking this board, the Architectural and Historical Review Board, to pretend they can't distinguish between two buildings and one.
Bruce Richards, 153 Main. I'm going to just read it and it'll be short. I can't see it. Steve presents so well, and everything he has said needs to really be considered great. But I've lived in what has been known as the old library now for 15 years and worked on it to maintain it and try to improve on its history. We went back to the 1903 drawings by Goodhue, added the dormers and the loggia that were originally there that were not put on by the village to help enhance the architecture as you arrive into Main and Cedar. I would like to add my building to Steve's list of aqueduct buildings or related buildings, because when people come out of what I call the trailhead on their bicycles, many of them stand in front of my building before they go to Sushi Mike's to have photographs taken of that building.
Sorry, Bruce.
What?
I'm sorry, Bruce.
No. Well, but also with Steve's building, that sort of encouraged us to take on the old library, because, you know, because we were, all of a sudden these concerns from 2002, where it went on for as lengthy a period of time as any of these houses about whether you could sell the library or not sell the library. I worked 16 years in LA on an old arts and crafts home in downtown LA, and all of a sudden there was a sense of place here. So I felt good about coming there. And the history of a place is really important to me. I mean, I'm sorry that everybody is over 60 that's spouting this idea, but that's just the way it is. In 2002, the village had this sense of place. It is amazing to me the turnaround of concerns in these last several years. We applaud the upscale eateries and stores and amenities that are arriving due to this nature of the village and the want to be here. Yet we have no problem in doing away with those same qualities. And so it doesn't make sense to give up one in order to gain the other for development of development's needs or wants or demands. Please disallow the removal of the barn in favor of something that is not additive. That's the other problem. Many of the new designs, the reason that everybody is up in arms is it's not like it's great architecture. I mean, it's adequate architecture. It's almost cancerous architecture. This just adds to the math without adding to the good. And so I think a lot of these things need to be taken
of Chestnut Street and the, I guess, former village of Dobbsbury, soon to be something else, I don't know what. I can't match the eloquence of these speakers who preceded me. I just want to remind you that based on the experience of 2 Ashford Avenue, what you reach in agreement with Gotham design doesn't mean that that's what's going to be built. So keep that in mind when you discuss this with the developer. Also, we've had some wonderful words tonight. Ever since Gotham design took away my Riverview, I've been trying to think of words to express my frustration, my dissatisfaction, and nothing comes out right. It's either too strident, too angry, too imprecise. But at the last Ahrb meeting, Michael Patino, in a few words, summed up everything I feel about these projects. He said, I don't care what the code says, it doesn't look right. That sums up my feelings exactly.
I think there's a very pertinent issue regarding the notion of preservation as a historic narrative as opposed to the traditional method of thinking about it in terms of unique architectural masterpieces. This is part of a story, and I think that we will take that into consideration when we make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. I will, however, say that many of the design strategies that are a part of the current application were also formed through a process of discussion with the planning board and our board, many of which you all have been part of, or at least present, and I know they're not open sessions per se, but they are, you have attended, some of you have attended. So there are some complicated issues to work out. Some evidence has been brought to our attention very recently about the vintage of the barn, which was not clear at the last round when we saw the previous group of iterations of this project done a few months ago. So again, that's another important finding that we'll take into consideration. Do you guys have any?
It's a very complicated project, but back last year on the joint meeting with the planning board, we agreed on basics that we discussed, and it was presented by Patty, in which we said that back then there was a joint session between us and the planning board, and we come up with some recommendations how to move forward. And one of them was maintaining the character of the barn, because it was too much to ask for a developer to restore it, and in the light of what is the as of right, which of course can be challenged and can be twisted and interpreted in many ways. The fact that the applicant decides to build a bridge or an applicant, a connection to the existing structure and gets away with a revision of the code, it's in his right.
Can I interject just for a moment? At the time when we discussed the barn issue, it was equivocal. The vintage of the barn was equivocal. There was the one, we had heard that it was a 19th century barn. There was some reason to think that it was otherwise, and so there was some conflicting information about the barn when we first discussed maintaining the character and not necessarily the actual barn. So I think that's a distinction that we should make now, that wasn't so clear 6 months ago, 9 months ago.
No, I totally agree, and I totally appreciate the care of the existing barn, you know, of the attention that this barn is creating and the feelings that the community has toward the barn. However, to bring it to an historic landmark of preservation, it's a very high bar to impose, and I don't know if it's in my purview to impose on anybody.
Well, I think that some of our initial thinking about preservation was focused on a sort of abstract quality of the building itself. Correct. It was focused on pure architectural integrity. And in that respect, we agreed that the barn didn't constitute any kind of architectural masterpiece in any shape or form. I'm not deeply immersed in preservation, and maybe not the best thing for the chairman of the Architecture and Historic Review Board to admit, but so I rely on the other members of the board who are better versed in that respect, and members of the public who also are more knowledgeable. I have been working with the Historic District group for some time, more so in the earlier phases, and so in an attempt to gain some appreciation and some deeper understanding of what constitutes current practices of historic preservation. And one of those things that's recently become a part of that movement and a part of this very specific group in Dobbs Ferry is preservation as it pertains to historical narrative. And that doesn't always lean on pure architectural integrity. And so I think that is, again, another element that is come to our attention and that is important, worth considering, and worth opining on as it relates to our recommendation.
Okay, so going back on my line of, yeah, please, we want to say something.
Okay, you can't hear me, sure, I'll use the microphone. Just go ahead, Peter.
No, it's fine.
Not in disagreement, but how can you stick with that original premise of keeping the aspect and character of the barn once the barn has been subsumed into this larger structure and all of a sudden been buried within it? You no longer have the barn.
I understand. I think we understand that.
If you mean kind of, you've got to do
That's a valid argument.
I mean, because all of a sudden, there hasn't been a good faith effort on saving the barn other than subsuming the barn. That's all. I don't see how you can do that. It's a conundrum.
It's a fair statement. I agree that however, the premise, there was something that Steve Tilley said, which I took from his the first statement, which was related to the premise of filling the space between the barn and the house. I understand that as of right, there is an 80% lot coverage in the site. So filling the space is a decision that the applicant is entitled to. However, if this filling the space is not successful or not, is an architectural and planning matter. We like it or not, we have a corner site which has an 80% lot coverage and 0 setbacks. This is on the code, so we have to also respect the rights of the site. this is a premise. If you buy this, if anybody buys a site, has a point of departure where you can build an argument and a development if so. So my question is, if nothing happens, the barn isn't going to be restored. We can't force the owner of the property to restore any barn. The barn can, be in decay forever, or the space between the barn and the house now is not the best. It doesn't look the best, and I don't think that the relationship of the aqueduct is highly impacted by developing the site or not. I have my doubts. So that said, going back to that memo that we recommended to maintain the character of the barn, and I agree with that statement that I have to revise my thoughts in terms of what maintaining character means. I think that the applicant is doing a good effort in trying to relate to all the constraints of the site, including the financial constraints that exist. We can't deny that there is a financial consideration in this application, and we have to take that into consideration as well. As I understand, there is a lot of issues here at hand, and there is a good amount of consideration that we have to take into account here. Deputy?
I think also the fact that the barn has really not been designated a historic structure.
Neither was the library.
I know, but that's your choice. And by the way, I love the building. We always stop there and
Well,
peek.
it's got a good architect.
I know. But there is no way to, force someone.
To have taste.
Exactly.
I just wanted to respond that yes, it is covered. There's no vested right to development there. There's no vested right for the full build out of, of our zoning, and all the parcels downtown. The reason the downtown was zoned the way it was to legalize properties which were lot line properties and mixed-use properties that were not legal. It wasn't to build in the back of all the buildings. There is, absolutely, the planning board, the board of trustees has the right to not allow the full build-out of the zoning envelope. There's an income-producing property here. There's absolutely no taking. There will be no taking. There's no momentum in that direction. What should happen here is what the land use intelligentsia and representative bodies feel is the best outcome. There's no given direction. This is optional. So and certainly the open spaces need to be considered, whether they're paved, whether they're have little gardens. When I got here, there was a lot of stucco in my building, like all the buildings. Some of the stucco because there was board and pattern, but this whole building was a wood frame village that was stuccoed by Italian immigrants, and they also did their thing with all these little open spaces. That open space historically was there was a little garden in the back of it. It's always been kind of, there was an Ahrb sign on that barn. There was a little garden between the barn and the aqueduct that was very productive. And the barn is an eminent candidate. I mean, there was a client, there was a resident of that site who wanted to buy the barn which, by the way, means it would have a non-residential use at street level, which in a business district, you're supposed to have non-residential uses to 25 feet from the street level facade. So on Main Street, Chestnut, Elm, Cedar Street, you need to have non-residential uses 25 feet into the building. The bank had to get either a variance or a waiver for residential use on the ground floor. So that would be the perfect use. And again, there's no, you don't have to play that game. When I sat on the Ahrb, I sort of felt this momentum go along to get along, and I walked by mistakes that I made every day.
Thank you. Hello? Can you hear me? Why you laughing? Does I look funny? I'm legal. Don't worry. Don't judge me by the way I look. I'm also a citizen. I want to express my sentiment.
Can you tell us your name?
Name. They call me nickname El Chapito. You know what that means?
Move it on, Tom.
Yeah, well, ask me what they call me. I'm a realtor also.
You say your name and address.
Yes.
You have to say your name and address.
I'm moving in soon.
Come on, Tony.
I'm talking.
State your name and your address and continue. If not, you can sit back down.
Okay, Anthony.
Anthony? Yes?
Julie. Okay? I'm a realtor. A lot of people move here for a certain reason. School, number one.
What's your address?
What's your address?
I live with my mom. She lives in 108.
You don't live in Dobbs Ferry?
Yeah, I live with her.
I'm sorry, I'm not, this is not a comedy act. We're not here to be entertained by people. Please sit back down. I'm not, we're not gonna, if you won't take this seriously, neither will we. Sit back down. We're not willing to hear your comments.
Why is it not serious?
You heard what I said.
Why would it be
We
serious?
do not want to hear what you have to say at this point.
But
Please sit back
you hear
down.
all the complaints, you don't want to hear something positive?
You have nothing serious to say. You're making a joke and a mockery of this.
No,
So
I'm not.
please sit back down.
What, because I have a hat?
You know exactly why.
Listen, this is discrimination.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I have the right to express myself, okay? Because I have a hat.
You have the right to stand up, say your name.
I did
and
say my
address,
name.
And make a coherent statement.
This
I
is-
said my name.
You didn't say your last name, you
I
didn't
said
say your
Julianne.
address.
I said that, 108
You're
Broadway.
wasting everybody's
Who
time.
are you? I gotta speak to him. Thank you. You stay there.
I don't know why you think that it's okay to come in and behave this way in a
What
public
am I doing?
hearing.
I'm trying to express my thing. I'm trying to
Clearly,
express. Like
you want to
everybody.
make a joke out of this
I said to you,
hearing.
it's not a joke.
We're not interested in that. You can
Because I
sit
told you
back
because I'm wearing
down,
the hat.
or that we can have you, we can call downstairs and someone can come ask you to leave, and you don't want that.
All right, I want your name. Michael Patino, I want your name.
That's very clear.
Okay, you're gonna see it. That's discrimination. Okay? Yes, it is. From to the full family you went. Yeah, it's good. Keep up there.
Do we have any other real comments to make? Addie, anything you'd like to add? There's no motion to be made. Thank you, everyone, for their comments. We will make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, and we'll do so. Sorry, Ed, this says 2 times. Is this an application, or this is a pre-submission? Does this require?
An application,
It is an application.
so you could,
Continue. So I'll make a motion to continue this to the next hearing. Yeah, your seconds? Unanimous? 112 Walgrove, which we saw first on the agenda. Number 6, 2 Lawrence Street, Rivertown Square.
Ferry LLC, the developer of Rivertown Square. And we're here to present the colors for the pylons, the 2 pylons that were previously approved as part of the site plan for Rivertown Square. Before I do that, just to give you a very brief overview, construction, as you see, is well underway. The anticipated opening date for most of the retailers is on or about the end of this year, with the exception of Mrs. Green's and IPEC movie theater, which will be probably March 1 of next year. The hotel has started their work. Several of the tenants have filed for their interior building permits. Most of the off-site improvements are completed, and as you see, if you go up Beacon, they're finishing the sidewalks to the school, which we will have completed before the opening of the school season, along with speed bumps and flashing lights, etc. So as I mentioned, the primary purpose of tonight is to review the colors, if you will, of the pylons. As part of the site plan application, there were 2 pylons that were approved. The primary pylon is at the intersection of Lawrence Street, which is located over here, and I'll show you some close-ups of it. And there's a second signage area that is on top of the parking deck that's visible from the Sawmill Parkway, primarily in the northbound location. Additionally to that, there are 3 directional signs. One directional sign at this location when you're coming up Lawrence Street, which will say, I'll show it to you, but it'll basically direct the residential to the cinema. There's a second directional signage here, which directs people to the hotel entrance. And as you're coming down Danforth, a directional sign here. And again, the signage was applied for and approved as part of the site plan approval process, and we're really here to show you the looks and the colors. The pylon, both pylons have the same, or both signage areas have the same look and feel, and the size of the pylons or the signage have been reduced from the original approval that was granted.
From what square footage to?
Approximately 15 feet to 11'6" wide and 15 feet high, which it is now from, I think, 20 feet high. And they were brought down because we thought it was appropriate. We also limited the square footage to the under the 200 square feet, which we understand to be the proper size.
And just out of curiosity, sorry, how does that compare? There's an existing sign, which you have a photograph of the Chauncey Square sign. Just relatively speaking, how does that compare? Are they similar? Is this larger, smaller? No.
I think the Chauncey Square overall sign itself is probably about 20 feet. And I think the width, if I remember, is about 10, 11 feet. I think the width is similar, but I think the Chauncey Square sign is higher. While I'm here, our signage will sit on our parking lot above the stone wall and basically orient itself this way. So when I show you the signage again, it'll basically appear to be sitting on the wall. So 2 or 3 feet of it will be resting, to appearance-wise, to be on the wall. You can see it best over here. So this is the wall that's currently there along the Sawmill Parkway or Stanley. And the signage will be oriented so a portion of it will be over it. So we think that the signs have been designed to comply with the rules and regulations in terms of the size of the structure, the size of the sign area itself, and the type of lettering will be consistent with the village's requirements. I have samples of the materials here. In essence, the materials and colors will match some of the exterior facade, the colors on the exterior facades of the buildings that exist today. So that's the pylon, that's the signage on Lawrence Street. Again, the location of it. The second sign is similar and sits on the top of the Building B parking deck. This, for example, is Mrs. Green's and Stanley Avenue. And on top of that, there's the existing parking deck, which is in front of Building J. And in the corner, we have a sign that again is 11 feet wide, which mirrors the first sign that you saw. To give you an orientation, this signage is mounted on the inside of the parking deck here, in approximately this location. And the sign area itself is located above here, so that's visible from cars primarily heading north on Sawmill Parkway. This is on the inside of the parking deck, where you can see the mounting, where that signage area is going to be. And again, the colors of the sign are consistent with the Lawrence signage, as well as the approved colors for the project itself. And again, I have samples of that. The directional signs, the 3 of them, will be 2 foot 8 wide, 4 foot 5 tall. They're mirrored in size to the existing Chauncey Square signs, and they will have a similar color with the brick base and the same colors as the other signage. And as I mentioned, there are 3 of them.
And where, can you locate those for us in the plan? I'm sure this is part of a site plan from a while ago, which I don't have.
So the first directional sign is located here, and it basically directs customers or residents or visitors. It says residential this direction. It says I pick this direction, theater, and it'll identify the retail in this direction. The second directional sign is located here, so people coming up Ogden or down Ogden will know to enter here for the hotel. And then the third one is located here, so that residents, people coming down Danforth or up Danforth will know to turn here for everything other than the residential.
So these are still vehicular sign pylons, but they are located on the sidewalk or between sidewalk and the street? Where
they're located on the grass, and not on the sidewalk.
So they're between. So there's a little strip of grass between road and sidewalk, and that's where they're placed.
Yeah, correct. You'll see there were 2 that Chauncey Square had. One was taken down for construction, and the other one, I believe, is located over here.
And are those planned to be?
They're remaining. We don't own it.
Okay, so I thought one was taken down for construction. It's going to be replaced.
Correct.
Okay. And how does that relate to your sign, just in terms of scale and placement?
It's the same size.
Same
They're
size.
all the same size. We mirrored their size with ours, so that would accommodate all the other.
Okay. And material-wise,
Material is the same material as the signage.
So the existing Chauncey Square sign is this,
No, I apologize if maybe I misled you. The signs for our monuments are the same as materials as the signs, our signage, as the pylons,
okay.
in terms of colors. They're similar to the Chauncey Square, as I remember, Chauncey Square brown and beige, which are two colors that we have.
Yeah, I'm not implying that your identity signage-wise needs to be tied to them, just that they're not so disparate that they cause some obvious,
Sure.
sort of visual problem.
The signage, the directional signage that they have is this color.
Okay.
It's a little bit darker, as I remember, and the cream.
So
And
it's
you
a
can see
kind of
it's
brick-colored stucco?
Yeah, exactly. So it's very similar.
Got it.
You can see the similarity between our colors and theirs, which is reflected in the directional and other signage as well.
Could you go back to that slide you had with the smaller scale signs? I don't think we had that one in our packet. That I wanted
The
to-
directional signs, no.
It's at, it
Yeah,
was,
This one.
I think one more
The directional
further.
signs.
Yeah, there,
Yeah, this just came in yesterday, so
Okay.
no, you don't
Got
didn't have any package. I do have it here with me on hand.
this is fine.
It's 4'6", I believe, by 2'8", and it mirrors the look of the other signs.
My sense is that the directional signs are fine. The chocolate and the white works. It's readable. However, on the pylons, to use the chocolate, you see the. On the pylons, to use on this, the vertical, it works fine, but if you apply the mist greens on chocolate brown, it's not readable. It's gonna be a problem.
What's your recommendation?
If you go, for example, just go back to the directional signs and you understand.
But these are backlit, right?
But
Yes.
those are backlit?
Yes, those, aren't
Well,
those?
they're the same as this. They're individual lit letters. It's not they're individual lit letters, which I believe is what the village's code is.
So each
Backlit, what each
letter is backlit.
Each
That means-
letter is backlit.
That means the cutout I peak, the red is gonna be lit.
That's correct.
All right, so that's gonna help. At night it will help. During the day, probably it's gonna go.
Hard to see.
It's gonna be hard to see. If you see the Chauncey Square signs,
Yes.
there you go. That you see that it's readable during the day and night.
Yes.
You may want to reconsider
The color?
the color of the
Would you
on the
recommend
pylons.
for example, a silver?
I would
The
say that,
background?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would benefit from visibility. I also think it would make a more handsome sign if there were, I understand that all the brands have their own
Yeah.
lettering,
Lettering,
but if you gave them all the right kind of silver or
Yeah.
a cream color or whatever, you wouldn't have such a hodgepodge like the other sign that's already there with its blue and it's red and it's
Right.
purple and it's green.
So
I think it's a nicer sign.
I'd be happy to take your advice and recommendation if you maybe would consider approving it subject to using A or B, silver or some other color. I'm fine with
Silver
it.
is fine. Silver is fine. I wouldn't change the vertical. I would
Okay.
keep the vertical as a chocolate brown with the white. That's fine. But the middle piece or the right piece, I will go silver. Background and the letters, it's up to the branding.
Oh, say that again?
Similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, the silver is very bright here, it does, the letters pop out.
Yeah, you want to be readable.
So you just mean change the background in here.
Instead of the black?
These days, the background here is silver, and just leave it
As opposed to maintaining this as a dark color and having all the lettering be.
These are the two colors.
You know, this is a good background, and the letters will go any letters you want.
Yeah.
On here, and this one will go on the side.
Should just go a little darker.
This is actually the material that would be on the side. I wasn't sure if it should be shiny or dull. Is it?
The gloss. This is high gloss. It's this nice.
This is the beige.
This is this. Oh, it does look the same.
It's pretty much the same. That works.
I think it's going to be more beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I'm good with that. We're good with that.
Did you okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Any other comments?
Do you think the directional sign should be the same? Or?
Directional
No,
sign.
I think it
Fine.
white
Direction
on the
is
dark
good
background
contrast.
works well.
Pardon me? It works
That's
on
fine.
dark?
No changes in there.
Okay. Okay, great.
So we keep these to control.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put these into the, and any concerns,
Yes.
code perspective?
The two pylon signs were this original application. The three directional signs are not in this application. I had an opportunity, because I reviewed the pylon signs, to see that they were approved on the site plan in these two locations. They are compliant in size and lighting to that zone, so I have no problems with that. If you want to make comments about the directional signs and approve them conditionally, I'm fine with that too, but I need to check the site plan for the locations and exactly where they're going to be placed.
If I
Is
could,
it on village property, is it on your property, where were they?
if I could recommend you proceed that way, I think that they might have been on the amended site plan. It's possible, but I'll look into it and get you the information and answers. And if not, then we'll make the application and we'll spot them.
Yeah, I didn't look for them because they weren't on this application.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any more presentation for us tonight?
I don't on
Okay.
this. I did want to just alert you to two other items that aren't relevant to this, so it would be okay. I think we should finish the signage and then I'll update you on two other minor items.
Okay, we have a neighbor, gonna comment. Just one moment. Just a moment. You, everyone said that tonight. I don't know what to tell you.
Speak louder. Okay, and I just want to say, I didn't quite get where the sign would be on the building B/building J and how it correlates to the house, and will we see it from the windows? Will it be lighted, and what is the size of them? And will it block any views? I think that's important before any approvals can be made.
It's on
We
the
have more information.
Danforth
There's
Stanley
no
corner.
pictures showing it, so we would like to see more info.
well, I think there is a picture just for you. There is a photograph showing that that we saw earlier in the presentation, and actually I can.
Well, I think what you leave the picture showing on the house.
Well, no, I know, but I don't think, here's what I'm gonna try to answer your question for you, and you tell me if I'm, the sign, that sign is up here. You can't see the house from this point because it is behind this building that has that you're just looking at the insulation, this yellow material. So there's no way in my mind that the house will have a view of the sign just given the perspective and the size of this structure.
So how far back will the sign be?
Well, that's on the site plan from where?
Here,
From
you
the
see it.
front of Stanley's Day?
It's right on the corner. It's right up against the parapet wall,
You'll see
so
it
you
here.
see here.
It's right, you see the curves here? So it's right on the parapet. So
So we won't see it from the house?
I can't assure you of that, but from the photograph, it seems extremely unlikely.
Well,
But
think
I don't-
we need to see a definitive picture that's going to make a proper decision. Thank you.
Yes?
And Schneider Belton Avenue, that I was interested in what stores will be coming to this place.
Chipotle is here, Chopped Salad is here, Ulta Cosmetics and Beauty Supply is here. There's a small space available for lease. This is Buddha Asian Grill. This is Menchie's, which is a yogurt dessert shop. Next to that is My Gym, which is a children's activity center. There's some space here that's available. This is the Learning Experience, which is a children's daycare with a rooftop playground. The primary store here on the first floor is not leased at the moment. This is North Shore LIJ Urgent Care Center. The end cap here is Lombardo's restaurant, which is on Mamaroneck Avenue in Mamaroneck. This is IPIC movie theater, cinema. And then below here is Mrs. Green's market.
Okay, back to the sign. To make a motion, we approve the sign as submitted with one change. The chocolate on the right side of the sign will be post-date silver, NP 23302, 30%, which is this sample I have here. The vertical band that reads Rivertown Square to the left is the Chocolate Bliss MP 10161, 30%. Also, I'm guessing the 30% is the sheen, so a sort of lower sheen. The other three signs, the smaller signs, which are we're not clear, we're part of the site plan approval. We are okay with those in design, and the color, which is the same as the left side of the main pylon sign. However, the department needs some additional documentation, so that we'll leave that contingent on the documentation. If it already exists, great. If then it's approved. If not, then you can submit the proper documents to do that. Any other stipulations? So I have a second?
I'll second it.
Yeah, your seconds. It's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You need these back?
No, Bill, you just take a picture. If you like, I'll take them back. These are the two that I'm going with. Do you want them for your file?
Maybe. And do you want those for the sign, or do you want to just include the? If you can sort of, if you have them, if you that's great.
So, one very minor item, and then maybe more significant one. In the middle of the woods, if you will, there's a footbridge that we're actually building. I don't know if you know about it, but behind the residential, somewhere over there, there's a little creek. The creek's about 10 feet wide, and we have a footbridge that's going over it. And it'll span the bridge. It'll span the creek, so you can walk across it. Somebody mentioned that the Ahrb might want to improve the color of this bridge. I don't believe you're really going to see it unless you're walking in the woods, but rather than have any issue about it, if there's a recommendation of what color you like, green,
Is
silver.
what's the bridge made out of? Steel, wood?
It's made out of wood and aluminum. At first, do you care what color it is?
I care if it's a nice bridge. If the wood parts, they should just stain to look like wood.
Yes,
Steel.
wood part will be stained wood.
Yeah, and the railing, if it's a metal, I would paint it a dark color, black or a dark green or something like that. I think.
Okay.
I don't.
Black with dark green, okay. Okay, great. So the one other item I wanted to alert the Ahrb to pertains to the trellises along Livingstone, and building L, which was at the corner of Livingstone and Danforth, because I believe that we're gonna go back to the planning board and possibly request that we don't build building L.
Okay. Which one, can you remind us of the
Yes, I
building?
will. You ever hear a developer not wanting to build a building? So the approval that we received had building L here, which was 1,500 square feet. And the approvals also have, in addition to the elevator stairwell, some trellises along here. And I'll show you some images, and I'll show you the text of the findings. In reading the findings, I believe that in part building L was desirable, and most importantly, the trellises were desirable to shield the customers driving through Livingstone of the parking field, which I think is a very good idea. Happy to do it. In fact, I'll show you some images. We do have a nice trellis coming along with some planting areas. Building L, however, we always thought was not going to be a leasable, viable building because it kind of sits out by itself. It's only 1,500 square feet. When we obtained the approvals, we got approvals for 116,000 square feet and change of quote leasable area as compared to buildable. The reason for that was because we were renovating and reusing the existing building on Livingstone, we wound up with more buildable square footage. So for various reasons, we're thinking about not building that and just shifting the 1,500 square feet into building J, into the old research and development building on Livingstone, where we have an extra 1,500 square feet. But so the idea was to build trellises to block some of the visibility, and maybe add building L for that purpose. In the findings, the statement was as requested by the planning board, the site plan includes the addition of building K and L. K we're building, that's the North Shore LIJ, and it's behind the house and blocks the house view from Livingstone. Totaling approximately 3,500 square feet of retail restaurant and a relocation of the elevated staircase building with trellis serving the market below. These new buildings and trellises extend the frontage on Livingston Avenue, which will not only aid in screening the large surface parking lot in front of building J, but also create a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly project by defining sidewalks and buildings. So to implement that, we do have all along Livingstone, on that side of the street, a significant sidewalk that connects everything. And then we also have a planting area. And then in addition to the elevator staircase, which we envision having arbors and ivy growing on it, we have trellises that run along it. And what we're proposing to do is to not put this building L on the corner. And if we need to extend the trellis a little bit further, then we propose to do that. Trellis is 12 feet high with 4 feet of hedges. So this is, as you're coming down Livingstone, if you're looking in this direction, the elevator stairwell is here. There's a planting area, there's a sidewalk. This is the building parking deck. And what was proposed, what was approved, was a building structure that sits here. we don't think it's, yeah, besides being not economically viable, we just don't think it's a good idea to put a building in that location. We'd rather leave it without the building. So we think that the trellis is a great idea. So we're intending on going back to the planning board to.
Okay, I remember our motivation around that was to, one, anchor the corner, and then with that structure, the trellis pergola structure, was to just add some visual interest and screen some of the parking. So I guess the question becomes, you know, what happens when you turn the corner? So I don't know if it would just be a question of extending all the way out to the intersection of the next street, so much as what to do with the corner, so that when you come down that steep hill and you're looking over it, you're going to see the parking, but how do you hold that corner in a visually interesting way? So we see what, you know, I think it needs something strong there in the corner, and you know, maybe it's that structure it gets a little larger on that, or there's a focal point on the corner where you do something more interesting than just a
pavilion.
That's right, a small pavilion.
What I would recommend is take a walk over there, or take a drive over there.
That was what I was
Because
planning to do, right? Because I understand what Michael was saying, that that area may need to have an anchor point, a focus point of view. And maybe it doesn't have to be a building, but a pavilion, or the trail is connecting to something at the corner.
When you walk or drive there, what you'll notice is that the grades today, which are finished grades pretty much, are very different than the original grades when that existed before the development. When you're coming up Danforth Avenue to this corner, you're coming up grade, and the structure on the left of the corner of Danforth and Livingston is probably 4 or 5 feet tall. I think that what you'll see is when you're there, if you add a structure above it, it's going to be very dominating and overpowering for the car, the driver, and the pedestrians walking. And similarly, when you come down Danforth.
I'll take a look. I'll take a look on the weekend.
Okay, well, that'll be great. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Thanks.
What?
145 Palisade.
Would you like copies of these materials or not?
No.
That's all right.
Site work spread around the property, and as part of a general upgrade, ongoing upgrade, primarily intended to just improve it. It's been neglected for a long time, and new owners are gradually bringing the property up. the areas of the work. There are 7 general areas where work is proposed. A new 2-bay garage, sidewalks and landscaping around the base of the main building, extending the paving in the middle parking lot, reworking the boundary on Palisade Street, beautifying that area along the block, renovating the containment structure for the oil tank, and renovating the utility structure.
The thing at the very bottom, you didn't hit on that.
This is just a, this is just an extension of the paved area near the existing salt shed. The salt shed is shown on the photograph. I guess the satellite shot predated that. Here's the survey. And basically the general plan showing the areas of the work. First, we'll look at this front area bordering Palisade Street. I'm sure you all know it well. Looking south along Palisade Street, we have this sort of a ratty old fence here that's rusted and deteriorated. It's up against a fieldstone wall with about a 30-inch drop. So there's a sidewalk, it butts up against the fieldstone wall, and then it drops 30 inches with a fence against it so that people don't fall off the wall and get injured. Here's looking through the fence, that's the view to the west. You see the parking lot, and then beyond it, you get glimpses of the Palisades. Those open up more in the winter, obviously. And again, looking south, the shot is distorted, but again, here's the fieldstone wall that drops off and the existing sidewalk and this deteriorated fence. Here's a simple sketch that shows the concept. The idea is to remove the fence and infill this area back for a distance of about 10 feet. Then build a new retaining wall, which goes down several feet, about 4 feet, down to the parking lot, and up a foot and a half with another fence on top of it. The overall height of this fence would be about, I think we have it at 4'9".
And what's there's a berm from the sidewalk up and then a 4'9" fence, so the overall?
No, basically the sidewalk is already above grade, so we're sort of leveling that out.
Okay, can you go back to that sketch? So that, the green area is berming up?
That's right, the sketch is a little misleading. This is actually sort of running level.
Okay, got it.
Whoops, I'm in the wrong direction, sorry. Here you can see where the wall drops off. This is where we get infill back for about 10 feet, and then a new retaining wall that get built. So here's a section. You can see the existing sidewalk, the existing fieldstone wall, may not go that deep. The infill, the new retaining wall comes up a little bit. The living block wall forms the base for a sliding fence above. Here, looking at the elevation of the fence, you can see it leads from the sidewalk. This is the grade coming out more or less level from the sidewalk, a low wall, and then a slatted fence on top of it. The height of this fence has been set so that it obscures the parking, but allows as much of the view of the Palisades as possible. That's how we came to that 4'9". Continuing along, these are two shots of the entry to the site. Looking to the southwest, and then there's the driveway going down to the building, and then to the northwest, the driveway going down to the building, just existing condition.
another sketch proposed. So as this existing stone wall gets up towards the intersection, now we're going to extend the field stone and bump it up a foot or so and turn the corner with it so it forms a more defined entry. And this will also provide a background for some signage. I guess the idea with the signage would be that it's a standoff signage, raised lettering that's backlit. We're thinking the material will probably be brushed stainless, although we want to wait and finalize that decision after the fence and the walls in place so that we can tune that. We're thinking it will probably be a brushed stainless raised sign. Meanwhile, the other, the Liberty Block wall here with the slatted fence, it's shown, again, this is an early sketch, it's shown vertical, but it's the slatted fence that was shown in the previous elevation. So, the material, you have the...
I've got your board.
The material board. This is a little chunk of Liberty Block that's used on other areas of the site as well. This is the proposed material for the fencing. It'll have a blackened steel. It'll probably end up being galvanized steel that's painted black, and will probably expose hardware on the slats of the fence. We're looking for an industrial look, but trying to adjust the materiality so that it's beautiful at the same time. And then these colors refer to the stucco and trim on the garage building that we'll be getting to, the garage and the other building. Looking down the driveway, we're also proposing some landscaping in this area. Here's the existing and proposed. You can see that we're turning the corner. There's the field stone wall. Just to be clear, the existing wall along the sidewalk is field stone. The proposed wall is the Liberty stone. The Liberty stone color is very close to the field stone, and it's used throughout the site. But where we're extending the existing wall, we're matching that field stone and taking it around the corner. So again, we have field stone walls on both sides of the entry, and then planting and landscaping, and then trees coming down the road, and then lighting on standards 15 feet high at intervals heading down the road. We also are proposing lighting within the parking lots, and those will be 12 feet high. Again, we've tried to set the height on these lights and specify the lights so that the spray is appropriate. Just enough light to light the roadway at 75-foot spacing, I think it is. And then 50-foot spacing in the parking lot with lower standards. Lower height on the roadway. This is getting landscaped, and we're adding a small island of road and continuing to pick up one of the This is a shot of the Liberty Stone. Here's the landscaping plan. I have it here in black and white in color. The black and white is supposedly a little more than the white. I can't do it on this slide. In the packet, hopefully we'll be able to review this market. And here the lettering is faded away because of the color, but you get the general idea. The plantings have been chosen by our landscaping consultant to provide a texture that works well with that fencing in the wall, to change throughout the seasons so that we have different vignettes at different times of the year, and varying heights and textures so that they work well thing we'll look at is the surround, the base of the main building. Here's the view of the existing coming down from Palisade Street. Look at front of the building, you can see there are some existing work here, it's deteriorated. There are no sidewalks on the north end of the building. There is no real handicapped access to the building. And the parking lot basically comes right up to the building. It's not mitigated in any way, it's fairly harsh. Continuing around the corner, the grade drops, so there's a grade change as you come around the corner to the, on the north side. You can see that here. Here's two inset plans, the existing plan, and then a slightly larger scale of the proposed plan. You can see the proposed sidewalks, plantings along the base, the refurbishing of the existing loading dock now, that will probably be used as a terrace, and the loading dock will be converted into usable space.
Which sheet are you on? I'm trying to catch up here.
I do a separate plan.
What sheet is that?
That's
Is that in the, that's,
Yeah.
just want to be able to follow you. This is what we're looking at. This is a different plan. This is the landscape designer's work in this package. It's, I can't relay the text from here.
Right, there you go.
This is us, okay. Great.
So it's fairly straightforward. Work is proposed around the base of the building. That is to provide sidewalks around from the main east facade around to the north facade, to provide plantings at the base, and to provide handicapped access. We're adding a new handicap ramp over here, another one over here. And then the walkway and plantings coming around, and then steps down to deal with the change of grade, and then continue walkway and plantings on the north side. I'm sorry, it should be showing it on this one. This is the proposed. So the new steps coming down, and the walkway and plantings on the north side. Here's the handicap ramp, and then another one over here. Again, a landscaping plan. A similar approach, we try to pick plantings that are going to work hard for us. Next thing is the little utility shed. Currently, it houses a fire hydrant. We've gotten approval from the fire department to take the fire hydrant out of the shed, and it'll be a utility shed. It'll be a central point for utilities that need to get dispersed to the site. Basically, we're just taking the existing shed and refurbishing it and enhancing it a little bit. There it is. It's falling apart. So we're going to rebuild it. Here's the existing here and here's the proposed. We're going to continue with the motif on all the little outbuildings and accessory buildings around the site. And with the idea that if we pull them all in as, I don't know, like children's music building. Similarly, we have an oil tank enclosure under the bridge that crosses the tracks. That's the existing oil tank enclosure. There's no real changes to it other than repairing it and enhancing the overall geometry of the system. Again, existing and proposed, where we're just squaring it all. This is pointing to basically just increased paving in the middle parking lot. The existing parking lot is half paved and half gravel. And the gravel, in that condition, the runoff from the paving ruts the gravel. It's fairly ratty. It can't be plowed easily. We're proposing to extend the gravel. Extend the paving path. Very straightforward. There's, throughout a number of these items, there's been drainage and stormwater management implications that have been dealt with to the satisfaction of the planning board and non-engineers. Down in the corner, again, we're just extending the paving a little bit back there. It's sort of inconsequential, but show it to you. It's just basically a little bit more parking lot there. Then finally, up on the north corner, we have the new garage. The building really requires equipment for plowing snow and maintenance, whereas a dump truck and front end loader, backhoe combination, that equipment may change at different times, but that's the gist of it. Rather than having the equipment just hanging outside in the parking lot, the owners wanted to make an enclosure for it to protect the equipment and also to get it out of view and follow the same idea of enhancing the site. So this is down in the north corner of the lot. Livingston Creek is over that way. And this is a fairly steep slope up towards the, up to the east. Here are views of the proposed two-bay garage. Since it's housing a large dump truck and a backhoe front end lifter, they need height in there so that they can work on them. So it's about, I think it's about 16 feet inside. The overall plan is about 30 by 40. We, again, we're sort of continuing the same mode as we have on the previous accessory buildings that we borrowed from the main stretch. It's a little different, here it shows what's happening as this is sort of cut into the hillside. We have we think pretty articulated dealing with the here and runoff from the street slope. This is the existing recently added salt shed, the elevation of the salt shed, the elevation of the new structure that's being tucked into the hill. The two bays and the single door. So they're not identical, but they're similar. There's a little flower that we keep using. And that's it.
This site has been enhanced. I have no comments. I think it's a great job.
Yeah, I mean, primarily the area immediately around the building is the thing that area immediately surrounding the building is the most difficult to navigate. And so I use it all the time. I welcome the improvement.
It's an improvement.
Clearly. Was there any point at which you entertained some semi-pervious parking for that middle lot? I know that's not really so much a question for our board, and it sounds like you're contending with the runoff issue, but as more and more of the site becomes pervious surface on the steep slope,
well,
comes to mind.
We considered it. where we went with it was to implement natural retention systems and natural stormwater systems. So rather than burying dozens of coltects, there are gravel swales and that work to slow down and retain the water that have been implemented down below that expanded parking lot, and also at the garage. So impervious didn't really work for us, again, because it's a parking lot in that particular situation, but we did take natural measures to deal with the stormwater drainage, which are really pretty good.
Is there a master plan eventually for the property?
Well, I can't answer it. The building owners can. I would think that there probably will be. At this point, they're sort of just trying to get things in order. They're trying to stabilize the building. It's been neglected for so long that they just want to put what's there in order. I mean, and sort of get it working right. You know, the question that's on all of our minds is what happens on the other side of the bridge, of course, and there's terrific opportunity. But right now, we're really not sure, and I think they're taking a really long-term approach and going at this in a really well-considered way. They're looking carefully at things that need to be done to stabilize and enhance the building. They put decisions to maintain and upgrade the main building, which is a beautiful thing.
Is a good portion of the main building leased out?
Excuse me?
How much of the main building has been leased out?
It's well occupied.
Right,
I'm
completely
sure there's
occupied.
spaces that you could rent if you like, but I think it's really well occupied. I've been there for about 7 years, and it's been nice to see the changes in the last couple of years, and it's a busy place.
It's an interesting property.
So just a more specific question, this is the lamp post that you have, which is a square section this is this 4-inch square steel post, but you're only going up 12 feet in the parking lot and 15 along the roadway, and it's just these 3, or do you actually continue down the site? So the first post this is a 15-foot post here. I'm just curious what happens with the street, and then 12-foot posts. 12-foot posts down here. So these are really the ones that you.
Right, they do continue down and like the road on down.
And these are 2 large trees. So really, it's these 2, and these 2 are set back far enough that
they're tucked within the trees.
And what's happening along? Is there street lights along Palisade Street?
No.
Nothing.
Just the signage.
And any other site lighting, or just these
Not
several?
this time, just the lighting on the road.
So nothing in the landscape, no little things peppered throughout to highlight some.
It's a good point. I could imagine that it would be improved by that. It's not proposed at this point.
Okay. This is a nice looking light post.
Yeah, they're great. It's a good company.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this in my pocket. I don't know if you guys have any.
Good.
I think it's a great improvement.
Oh, thanks.
Sure.
Mike does a great job with a lot of these guys are going after that building, he's on the case. I assume the planning board looked at lighting and mandated dark sky fixtures. It's in our code, but probably was in the minutes in the.
it's all far down, I checked.
And minimum, the IES minimum standards for parking, which are, I don't know, half a foot candle max. So, just assume that that's what.
Yeah, there's a photometric study that is part of the package, which provides that.
I'm here as somebody whose bedroom is illuminated by the straight parking from the waterfront parking lot. And I was on the committee that worked with the landscape architect who specified the lighting, and they said, yeah, no, this is cut-off lighting. Anyway, I don't need the night lights, but, you know, it's, stuff happens. And by the way, that, just Michael, that hillside, I know that hillside pretty well, and that's a wonderful showman, so anytime you stuff, just be careful. It's full of stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Bruce Richards, 153 Main. There's a long palisade, where the chain link fence is now, and then there are these volunteer old growth trees. Will those be then removed and all the new plantings be put in so they are a little taller than the proposed fence, or are you going to be leaving the old growth there? I mean, I'm all for taking it down because it's just a mishmash. I just wondered how much would be removed and started anew. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are, right now, there are 3 sizable trees. One is no good. Basically, it's rotted out from the inside. The next coming down, we're holding on to the 2 sizable trees and building our wall around them so that we can protect the root structure on those. And then the rest of them in that area, as we're filling in, they're going by the wayside, but now we're proposing new plantings, including some trees that the idea is that the trees will be, that the trunk will be silhouetted against the fence, so that the actual branch structure will be up above the fence, again, in terms of the visual composition. So we're trying at this point, which is primarily the visualization, to address that and have a really nice plant structure in there. And we're glad that we can hold on to the 2 older trees, which give it, a strong base.
Well, I mean, it would be, there's been no sort of care of those trees, and so we always look forward to the winter for the view. And so those trees are they obscure a lot of the view, and they don't add to the form of the space. Whereas if there were new plantings that were cared from the get-go, so that they didn't just all do their things, it seems like that would be part of your overall vision.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not a landscape designer. We have a landscape designer on the team, and that's the intention is to maximize the opportunity there. We're basically, regrading and reworking that whole area. So the plantings are very important, and basically that's what we aim to do.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with everyone so far that this is a fantastic improvement. I would just, I guess, reiterate one comment from Ms. Chili that the lighting is complying. I was just looking for it, I couldn't find it. Lighting's complying with the dark sky requirement, and the portions of the code that define that. Otherwise, I make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second.
Yeah, your second. Unanimous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thanks very much.
just take a moment. Our fourth member will be right back.
No, no, it's all yours.
All right, thank you for your patience.
So it's been a long journey. Tonight I'm going to come up with this basically a concept home. It's not really a piece of architecture, but it's something that we created within the as of right for the variances we got from the ZBA. So I'm just going to go back a little bit. After spending several meetings with the board of trustees, multiple public hearings, I don't even know how many hours, the board of trustees, there was a consensus that they thought that the initial plan that was recommended by the planning board was too massive, and they recommended that we scale down the massive density. So given that, we went back and developed another concept and went in front of the zoning board to eliminate all the waivers and turn the waivers into variances, which we've done. So right now, I'll just go through a short presentation. It's just a concept, so I mean, the architecture still needs a lot of work, but we want to get some feedback on what you think of the concept. So, we'll go to the next. So here again, two building lots, okay, two zones on one lot. We have DB on the Main Street side and NDR2 on the Palisade side. This is the existing building, which is what it looks like today. Again, I'm not here to talk about the architecture, what I'm doing with the windows, what I'm doing with any of the components of the existing building, but it's going to be restored forever. This is what was approved or recommended to the board of trustees for the planning board.
lobby seating, and, that's what we did. So, then we went to the zoning board, and, we decided to say as of right with the height, which was the biggest concern. And it was a waiver of, I think, 30 feet on the height. So this concept right here is all as of right with the height. It applies to the NDR2 height requirement, as well as the setback from palisades of 20 feet on this side over here. And this is a concept that we came up with that works within the variances that we got. So, given that we have the garage, we had gotten one variance, which is the backyard variance right over here, which the variance, the required amount is 25 feet, and we were able to get a 10-foot variance, which gave us an additional 15 feet, which we were able to capture at least 2 parking spaces. So this is the elevation of what we got, what we got as a right, and the variances. So this is looking at here's our setback. We got a 4-foot setback from setback. Remember, this street wall, we were supposed to keep it, but we set it back. So we got a 4-foot variance on this Chestnut side. On the Palisade side, we're as of right 20 feet. And then you have 2 variances, which were site coverage and impervious and non-impervious. So that's pretty much what we have right now. So, you know, we're going in front of the board of trustees tomorrow night, and we're just looking for a recommendation that this concept should move forward. Now, what we did to improve some of to help some of the comments, we moved the garage from Palisades to Chestnut, okay, because there's a lot of issues on that. Again, we have the setback on Palisades 20 feet. It's only 1-story garage instead of 2. And it's just a lot smaller project.
How many units are you going to get now?
We're proposing, was it 19, 11 and 8.
11.
That's why I have 19 spaces.
And it's connected only on the garage level now, the 2 buildings, and there's no connection
That's
on
the only
the upper
connection
2
right now.
floors. I couldn't tell from the, I see, and that's the only entrance you're going
The
to
entrance
have
is going to be
from Chestnut.
From Chestnut. And there's going to be 2 entrances from Chestnut. There's going to be 1 entrance to the new building and 1 entrance to the existing building. But you can access from the courtyard in between the buildings both to the garage.
No, I meant the garage entrance. There's only 1 garage entrance.
1 garage entrance, I'm sorry.
One of the things that we talked about a lot, and there was a strong, meaningful element to us, was the connection between the old building and the new building. And I know that in part that larger glass structure was a way to integrate the 2 similar scale massings, the larger one on Main Street and the or taller one on Main Street and the sort of larger one at the back. There was also, and so a lot of the concern was, how do you take this building that everyone looks at and admires and thinks of as one of the key buildings in the village, and then add to that? And I thought that the architect had done an intelligent, used a good tool for doing that.
Right.
I also, and I had an opinion which was favorable about the massing of of the previous scheme. Now, I understand that for a number of other reasons, that wasn't appropriate for the community and for the boards. So while the previous project had an integrity in and of itself, right, forget about whether or not it was too big for the neighborhood or not. It had its own logic, and I like that. This one has this one doesn't achieve that. In my mind, it doesn't have a clear relationship except for the fact that it's brick to the existing building. And there's a way in which it appears more like an oversized house than an apartment building or a series of condos or whatever it will work out to be. So I think that there's two things that this new scheme needs, and one of those is a connection to the old building. Whether or not they're the same or not.
Don't line up. That's one issue.
That's one of the, and so what's
We can't line them up because we have to get a variance for the height.
Okay, so what happens here? This level is the same as this floor level, so, no?
I wish it was.
It looks it.
It's about 2 or 3 feet
Oh,
long.
so you've come first floor,
Oh, and it jumps up.
and then it jumps up.
Mhm.
I don't have height, so
They have the elevation.
control the, control
I tried to keep the garage existing. That's, that's the object.
There still would be a zipper, as we were calling it before, connecting the two buildings, but instead of extending up 5 stories, however you want to define height, it would only extend up 3 stories.
Yeah, I mean, it did this other thing where it came down and it met the ground.
Right.
And so from the street, from a pedestrian standpoint, you walk down, you pass the existing building, there was a connection that was different, signified the change in period and use and, form, and then the new thing. And so I don't have the solution right now, I haven't thought about it, but you need something here.
And right.
But I guess we are going into details now.
Right, but I agree with you.
No, we're not, we're talking about two main, right, this is one, the other is four.
What I think is at core here is, there is a problem with there are issues that are solvable issues to design. This is not design yet, it's just a massing.
Correct.
But even the
it's
massing
the
is-
issue, the massing is one interpretation of what they call it as of right. Now, if they can, if you bring a massing like that and you bring a proper developed scheme, then we work with that scheme that you develop. One thing is for sure, I would like to see all the Oceana building developed. So if this is an opportunity to get, to carry the scheme along, I think it will take many iterations and many design effort, a good design effort to make it work. Clearly, there are like 3 issues here. The Oceana building, the base or the parking base, and whatever you put on top. Whatever is on top now doesn't relate to the parking well, and doesn't relate to the Oceana building well. So it's kind of.
It's just for massing.
It's just for massing,
It's
so
not, it
it's.
has no, that's why I said don't
And no-
critique it,
no
because it's really.
design.
No,
Okay.
I'm giving you a
I want
roadmap for
feedback
going
on
forward.
which direction, which path, because when I engage in somebody I want to give them a direction, and that's what I'm looking for right now. And you say,
the connection between the two buildings is one thing, and, you know, I'm looking for.
There has to be some sort of connection by
Right, there
design.
definitely does.
There has to be a connection, and there has to be a connection to the base and to the, you know, to the character of the scheme. Now it's kind of disjointed.
Yeah, we have no choice but to
Wishy-washy.
look at the thing that, you know, we have, this is more developed than the diagram. And
Right.
so my reaction to that is that it's going in the wrong direction.
Right.
And I think previously you were going in the right one. And I think you can, if you can integrate some of the previous thinking about the way in which the masses were organized and
The
stepped and
architecture.
moved, and that's one approach. Another would be, maybe you look at, you know, some, these separate verticals in here. I think the idea of this thing as as what appears to be almost a house on top of this is the wrong direction. It should employ some of the previous technique or a different one that utilizes this allowable bulk in a better
The
way.
height is an issue.
Pardon?
The height is a concern.
But the height is one of the constraints that you have to work with, I
Well,
think.
I'm trying to keep, I mean, it's not for this board, but I said, you know, I'm trying to keep high ceilings in these units to go with the old existing building, and to achieve that in the park.
At this point of the game, the parking seems to be an obstacle in developing a proper scheme.
I need the parking for the existing
No, the
building.
parking as a mass.
Only 2 floors are occupiable in the new building,
Right.
according to this. The top is just,
I mean, the whole
Decorative
dormer
element.
concept can come off, I mean,
Okay.
that's.
The which one?
It's all the dormers, I mean.
But the dormers is so.
it's occupiable space on the
Yes.
level? Okay. 'Cause
Look,
it's not indicated in the-
I don't think that you should get rid of the concept of the dormers, the way that they're presented now, it kind of.
It doesn't go with either of the buildings.
I will use any trick in the book to maximize square footage, but dormers is one trick, but it doesn't work as it's presented now.
Again, this is just for mass, I mean.
That's why I say,
That's
if
what
you
I'm
want,
saying.
if you want from me, or from
Right.
us, a recommendation to go to the next board, by all means, if this is an as of right concept, yes, we're gonna have to work, you know, in developing a scheme that is successful. Do I make myself clear?
I mean, look, right now, I'm just looking for a recommendation that we take this to board of trustees for site plan approval, so I can go to the next step and design something
Yeah,
right.
now we are,
That's-
you know,
that's
looking
what I'm
forward to see
asking
design.
for, just so you can recommend the board of trustees, says contingent on you guys approving it, and then I can come back with, engage an architect and spec.
I guess this is what I said, right?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot for us to
Respond.
endorse at this point, right? I mean, the thing that I see, I'm critical of, and so I'm not sure what exactly you're asking. Because all I have to go on is this.
Right, I get it, and what it is that you see how many illustrators I went on the last round for 8 months and back and forth, and I thought we got a good scheme, but it didn't happen, so right now I just wanna,
We don't want to do this.
I don't wanna go through that whole process again. You know, I wanna engage in somebody, go back and forth for a few rounds in a year to do the right thing, but I gotta get through the board of trustees to do that.
And one other thing, really, when you're referring to massing, I think you're really talking envelope, because the massing here isn't designed. So the massing, there'd be a whole bunch of different things that could happen. It's the envelope that we're really trying to establish.
And what's the difference?
I'm not sure I understand the difference.
Well, in other words, here's the footprint, here's what the walls are, and here's the height, but how does the roof work? How do dormers work? How do things break down? How does the zipper work? None of that's been designed. And the idea is to take another 3 months and work with this board and then hope that when we get to the board of trustees, there's somehow they like it. We don't want to, you know, Ahrb made a statement in the joint meeting, which I think was a really important one, which is when the mayor was asking him, how do you feel about changing from a 4-story to a 3-story building? Ahrb said, do what you want. give us a 4-story, give us a 3-story, we'll work it through. And I think this board has that capacity, and I think that's what we want to do. We want to get site plan approval, and then come to this board, and however long that takes, that's working with you. And we know what our envelope is, and we know how many units we have, all that stuff is set, and then we can talk about architecture.
I mean, there's no variant, there's no waivers, we have the variances, we just want to stay within the bubble, that's it. So that's what, I mean, I know it's, I'm not sure exactly the direction to go with you guys, that's what I'd like to see happen.
Well, so far it's a schematic, it's a schematic approach.
Right, but what I'm saying, what Patty's saying as well, is that we need you to, I don't want to go, I want to go to the board of trustees with the contingency that they approve the site plan based on you approving the architectural component within this, approved mass bubble, as I call it. That's what, would be in the best interest.
Yeah, I know.
You want to hear people, what we think about it?
Yeah, sorry, people have been waiting for the morning, please.
Bruce Rich is not 53 Main. This building's come a long way. I mean, and I think what they're asking is this about the right size? And then they're going to fill that envelope, as Patty says. And they basically, by the fact that they've taken the opening of the parking garage away from face to face with the church and moved it around the side, I think is good. They've stair-stepped the existing fencing or whatever it is on Palisade, to sort of step back and get their setbacks. The height looks good. The dormers, don't look good. But I think all of a sudden there was like an attempt at what can we pull off Palisade Street to make it, you've got two parts of a dog here. You got Oceana and you got Palisades. And the Oceana building is more beautiful, but it's hard to replicate that building without allowing the size to, in a sense, echo it without looking like a miniature replica. And so I think what it seems like they are trying to make it so that the materials are similar, the massing is now right, and now they've got to, come up with a better design would be great, but I really think they should be applauded and encouraged for at least moving it into this direction and having one of the three aspects at least considered or at least arrived at. Thank you.
Had a lot of long conversations with Bart, and he knows what I'm about to ask, right? The corner, and I think it actually addresses, unfortunately, it loses the parking space. Could you put that, that corner image up?
Yeah.
If you can set it on the right corner?
Yeah, I can try.
And, you're not gonna solve the building tonight, and I agree that the good qualities of the previous scheme need to be somehow infused into this one, but a couple of strategies seem to me, it is the little hyphen that somehow breaks the band on the old parking structure, and it can be done almost, maybe, superficially with a change of materials and a recess, I don't know. At where the building meets the garage. But I've kept trying to persuade Bart to lose this corner, which means that then the volume that's set back could actually come down to grade and you get a landscape corner. He loses the parking space. So I say, I live in the neighborhood. My guests park, they come out to a party. I say park on Palisade Street, so but I'm happy about a whole lot of stuff here in terms of the general move. That's one specific kind of thing that seems to me would be worth exploring, and would then do that thing of, maybe something happens there where that's, I don't know, stainless steel, or that's, you know, glass, or that's something, and then this corner comes down the ground, you start to, then, you're never gonna get rid of the thing that you completely, there's parking underneath it, but you can't work on it. But, no, I think it's positive in that it moves ahead.
I really want to echo what Bruce was saying, is that having followed this through from the beginning, you know, it's much more something that is likely to fit into the neighborhood at this sort of scale. And no matter how brilliant the design was before, at that scale it could never have fitted into the neighborhood. And it is most important that this building be a good neighbor. And so the general scale of it is very important. So I'm pleased that they've brought it to where it is today. And I completely agree with all the things you're saying about that it clearly needs to have some brilliant design, but at least getting down to that space, that envelope, whatever is the right terminology, so that it has the potential. And I think facing it away from the parking, away from the church, is obviously very thoughtful, is the right thing to do. So I'm encouraged. I think it's got a long way to go, and I'm really encouraged.
Sandra Brown, 32 Walnut Street. I'll save this for another time, but I just want to remind you that it is summertime and that the zone MDR2 is what is in essence of Palisade Street, and no one really, except for Steve, is here from the neighborhood. I just feel like often the boards tend to look at things singularly, and one of your point on that you can actually have basis for denial is similarity, excessive similarity, or dissimilarity, and that has to be shown in effect with not just the Oceana building, but this section resides in the MDR2 zone, and you really have to look at all of that and make it come together, not just the Oceana building, not just, you know, what it's going to be for downtown. People live on that street, their street, and I ask that you would hear them out as you go through the process. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm starting to get a better picture of what exactly is in the process and where you're going from here. So we will, we have a couple of notes to send to the Board of Trustees. So my night is not quite over yet, but I mean, I think that what I wouldn't want to do is completely restrict the notion of the envelope, and because what I'd like to be able to do is work through a process that doesn't completely restrict us from the beginning and say, okay, well, this is the imaginary line, it's got to fit within here, right? And I would be, and I don't know if this is possible, I'll write a note. It would be nice if there was some ability for us to push and pull a little bit. So we say to you, hey guys, we can you push this wall in, and then, but we give back a little something here if you give us a little something there. So I'm
okay with that.
Yeah, no, I understand there's certain sort of rigid limitations about the variances, so it's a little bit tricky. I will start working on that. There's not a whole lot I think we can accomplish between now and tomorrow, but I can at least express our thoughts about that, and maybe we can work in that more intelligent way in the next couple of months. Okay. No motion.
not.
Oh, it is, it's an application? Motion to continue this to the next,
I'll second it.
yeah, your seconds.
Tomorrow, I can just say, it's just an introduction like this.
Ah, okay.
And do a call for the public hearing, which will be in September.
Well, then I'll send them an informal note. It doesn't have to be a memo. I only do things one way. Thanks, everyone. We have no, oh, you want to cut this aside?
Basically, the Dobbs Ferry that's actually just taken from the drawing.
So you don't
And
wanna,
so
you don't
the
wanna
idea
be
is to
those.
say Rivertowns instead. And the second sheet is a series of different fonts. And I think the bottom font is the best. But that's something that you guys, this has been approved, so it's not, I just don't wanna have something go up and have somebody say they didn't like it, or we should have reviewed it. One thing that I'm still trying to get is.
What was wrong with the Swiss 721?
There's nothing really wrong with it. It's effectively the same as these two. It looks, it's basically a kind of just a straight block. I thought having the bottom two has a little bit more shape to it, which I think in the stone will be softer in a positive way. But if you like the aerial.
No. The R's are really small.
The R's are small?
Yeah, they're like really tight letters, like not really beautiful.
They all are, actually.
It's why I prefer Arial. Just
So why they change from those
but I
to
don't-
Rivertowns?
Yeah.
You like the aerial?
I agree, there's an incongruence in letter scale. I mean, I do understand how the W really works in stone with it, because you're gonna get some alternating shadow lines. And the V, but I feel like some of the others. Yeah.
It's the R, it really is the R.
I mean, is this what you do? Do you know font?
I did it for about 5 years.
He knows a guy, yeah.
He knows a guy. I mean, I've looked through a bunch of different fonts. If I could find one that has a better R that looks like that.
I've been looking for my R for the last.
I mean, the R that's in this isn't really that great either.
No.
So I'll keep looking for it tonight. I mean, they want to make it. They'd like to make it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And do you care whether it says Dobbs Ferry or says Rivertowns?
I don't know.
But you wanna go see, what?
Look, there's a
You would-
history for
you wanna
putting
go to the
this
modern?
kind of thing on a building, and it's to name your building. And I don't think you name your building after a village. I mean, to me, that Dobbs Ferry, I think the building needs, if you wanna give it a name, then it should have a name, and whether that's Rivertown, the Rivertown building, or whatever. People are gonna start calling, no one's gonna call it the Dobbs Ferry building, because.
Okay, I mean, I like Rivertowns. I think Rivertowns is like,
Isn't it missing a D, Rivertowns? Or D, Paddy building? Huh? Rivertowns, you just call it
The Maida
Rivertowns,
building.
right?
Call it the Maida building. How about Pattyville?
That's it, Paddyville.
I think Rivertowns is better than Dobbs Ferry. Their concern with Dobbs Ferry is that people are gonna think it's a municipal building. Come in and say, can I pay my taxes here?
You say yes.
And the village needs space.
Yeah.
If I have to choose, I still think this is the stronger one, but I agree,
Okay.
it is a uniformity that does maybe.
Arial lacks
Style.
something for this application.
I'll use the aerial as the default, but I'll look for one that's got,
the
if I can
Helvetica.
find a better one that's got a much better R.
Arial is the
The
Helvetica.
spacing is just much nicer, just overall.
Yeah, well, the spacing also, I have to say, is what comes out of my computer when I type.
Yeah.
It's not,
Correct.
yeah. If I had my old selector, I could choose. Are we adjourned? Almost.
No, we're not, but all right, so we just wanted to chat with Patty about this. So we have to, minutes and,
No minutes.
no minutes.
Okay, table.
continue the minutes. Second?
Second.
Yeah, your second, unanimous. This is not an application, so we'll adjourn, motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. 50 seconds, unanimous. Meeting adjourned.